Hello, I am Alyssa, and today I am bringing to you my May 2018 favorites. If you don't know what my favorites are, that's where I list all the movies, TV shows, and video games I loved in this specific month that I'm talking about. I am very geeky, so I always have tons of stuff to talk about. So let's get going without much further ado, because I'll just jibber jabber if you let me. First we'll talk about the movies, which by the way, if you want to see the movies I don't mention in this video because I am watching a movie a day, you can check out my blog, alycatgeekery.com, or follow me on Letterboxd, which you can find in the description box down below to see what I watch and rate movies beforehand, before I talk about them in this video, or if I don't talk about them, you'll see them on there. Good? Good. So the first movie I want to include in my favorites for this month is Paddington 2. I actually watched this on the plane ride back from California, and it was just such a relaxing treat, especially because it was a very turbulent flight. Having Paddington 2 really helped calm my nerves. I adored the first Paddington, which if you don't know what Paddington is about this iconic bear named Paddington and how he comes to England after he's lived in a different country. And he's just such a lovable bear, but he ends up getting himself in tons of trouble all the time because he's just trying to do the right thing. And it's just an adorable film. It's an excellent sequel to an already excellent first film. Ben Whishaw as the voice of Paddington just melts my heart. And the supporting cast including Hugh Bonneville, Sally Hawkins, Peter Capaldi, Hugh Grant, they're all fantastic. And it's just like eating a marmalade sandwich, Paddington's favorite snack. Next up is a film I'm actually surprised made my favorites list, and that is Game Night. I am not a fan of comedy, but this is a dark comedy, besides a few puerile jokes I didn't care for. But Game Night focuses on a couple who met during a titular game night, got married, and now they're hosting their own game nights every week, but this one specific game night, the husband's brother is coming to town. His brother always outshines him and everything, so he is determined to win this game night to prove to his wife that he's the cooler brother. But then things go really wrong. And like I said, this is a very dark comedy. That's why I liked it. I liked Jason Bateman, Rachel McAdams, Kyle Chandler, Jesse Plemons, all the rest of the cast. They were just so on their game. They were having so much fun making this film, you could just tell. And like I said, most of the jokes landed, which worked for me. Now the next movie up is one that I went in cautiously thinking I would like, but I ended up loving, and that is Selma. Selma is a film about a young woman who goes off to school, and while she's there, she doesn't just have to contend with her burgeoning sexuality and discovering who she really is, she also has seizures sometimes. And when she has these seizures, strange things start happening. And I won't say more than that to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, but it is a beautiful film with stunning cinematography, sharp editing, amazing performances, and it does really make you think. It's entertaining, and it just took me on a ride that I was pleasantly surprised by and just entranced by. I loved pretty much everything about this film. There are a few instances that were shaky, but other than that, Selma is definitely a film you should watch if you can handle watching movies with subtitles, because this is a foreign film, but that should not deter you from watching such a fantastic film. The next movie I really loved is Sunshine Cleaning. This stars Emily Blunt and Amy Adams as sisters who are in a money bind, so they start their own crime scene cleanup business, and it's just a warm, sometimes funny, sometimes emotional film. Emily Blunt and Amy Adams are great as always. And I just love seeing these two together and their chemistry together, and seeing what happens when they start this really macabre business and how they handle it. It was just really warm, and I really enjoyed it. Now the next one up, you're probably surprised I haven't seen if you know me at all, but that is Highlander. Highlander was freaking fantastic. Most of you know I'm obsessed with Outlander and anything Scottish, so obviously I loved Highlander for that fact, but I also love the fact that Connor MacLeod is immortal and he is living both his current day life, but you also get flashbacks of his previous life hundreds of years ago. It's really fascinating. There are some awesome action set pieces, and this is just one hell of a film. I have not seen the sequels. I've heard they're not so great, but the first film is a classic for a reason, and I'm kicking myself for not having seen it sooner. Plus, Sean Connery in this film is just something else. The next one up should be no surprise to a lot of people, but that is Deadpool 2. I actually like this way more than the first, which I love the first film, so I really love Deadpool 2. Ryan Reynolds as the Merc with a Mouth is spot on. I loved all the tongue-in-cheek jokes, the Easter eggs, the cameos. It was just such a fun thrill ride. And it did have some emotional levity added to it, and I was really surprised by that fact. But it is a good summer blockbuster. It is so much fun. It is funny for the most part. A few jokes don't land, as per usual with comedies, but it's gory. It's got amazing action set pieces. It's got emotional gravity. It's just so much better than the first one, and it's just, go see it. If you're old enough, go see it! The next movie up was another one that took me by surprise, but that is Cargo. I had seen the original short film and liked it, but thought there could have been more substance, and this feature-length film starring Martin Freeman adds that substance I was craving from the short film. Cargo follows a man who has to take care of his infant daughter in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. And I know when you hear zombie apocalypse, you're thinking, oh, I know what's gonna happen. You don't. This film is so different. It's a fresh take on the zombie genre. Martin Freeman is excellent as the lead, and there are some amazingly emotional moments, and it does get dark, but there are also moments of hope. And this film conveys the power of love and family, and even in the face of loss, and even in the face of despair, that life goes on. And it surprised me in the best way possible. Now the next two films are going to probably cause a little bit of do I really trust her judgment? But first up is Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. This is my favorite movie out of the Star Wars prequel trilogy, and it's so good, it's so dark. If I say any more, that'll spoil anything for anyone who hasn't seen it before, like me, because I just watched it. But it's so much better than the first two prequel movies. Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman finally seem like they've got their feet on the ground with their acting in this movie. The special effects are pretty good. Some of the CGI is But the story was just so dark, and I loved it. Okay, phone, shut up. I'm filming! We'll wait. And also, another Star Wars movie I loved was Solo, A Star Wars Story. I know this film is very divisive, but I thought it was a really fun action film for the summer. I thought Alden Ehrenreich did a pretty good job playing Han Solo. I mean, he's no Harrison Ford by any means, and it's obvious the whole time you're watching that it's not anywhere close to being Harrison Ford. But Alden Ehrenreich did a good job being handed this massive character to portray. I love seeing how his relationship with Chewie evolved. I love seeing him with Kira, who is played brilliantly by Emilia Clarke. You can tell she's just having so much fun with this role. I love seeing his relationship with Tobias Beckett, played by Woody Harrelson, who is fantastic as usual. And I also love seeing how he came to meet Lando Calrissian, who is played wonderfully by Donald Glover. Seriously, the man is fantastic at everything he does. Everything he touches just turns to gold. He was the perfect choice for Lando. And I thought it was a really good heist movie. I thought Ron Howard did an admirable job directing, and I really don't see why people don't like it as much as they do, because I thought it was good, and I thought that it fit well into the Star Wars canon. So, I mean, that's my opinion. I liked it a lot. Next up is Thoroughbreds. This is a very dark movie, but you know me, I like my dark movies and books and video games and stuff like that. And Olivia Cooke and Anya Taylor-Joy are perfect. They are perfectly cast in this movie, and Anton Yelchin, this was his final film role, and he totally owned it. And it's just such a twisted story, but it kept me entertained, it kept me hooked. I won't say what the story's about because I would ruin the whole movie for you, but I do recommend you watch Thoroughbreds if you're into dark, twisted movies like I am, because this will definitely satisfy that itch. I also really loved Unsane, another dark movie. This is Steven Soderbergh's latest film, which stars Claire Foy, and Claire Foy in this movie is perfection. She totally encapsulates Sawyer Valentini. She makes her vulnerable, she makes her strong, she makes you question whether she is a reliable narrator or not. And it's just really interesting to see how she deals with being involuntarily committed to a psychiatric ward and seeing if what she believes is real or not. I also really like the fact that this whole movie was shot using iPhone 7s. It really adds a grainy, kind of voyeuristic feel to the film, which I think was appropriate for this specific story. And I highly recommend you watch it if you're into that kind of movie. And the last movie I want to talk about in my May favorites is Love, Simon. This was a delightful movie. It's directed by Greg Berlanti, who you may know as the pretty much mastermind of the TV universe on the CW. But this time he is directing this film. He did a fantastic job portraying the life of Simon, who is gay but hasn't come out to his family or friends. And he starts up an online relationship with another boy at his school who he has no idea the identity of besides his username Blue. And it's just him trying to navigate how he's feeling, dealing with the fact that he's gay, wondering how his family and friends are going to act when he finally tells them that he's gay. But it's just such a warm film. It makes you feel good, but it also packs a really powerful punch. I think Nick Robinson did a great job as Simon. I loved Catherine Langford as his best friend, and I think Josh Duhamel and Jennifer Garner were great as his parents. If you need an uplifting movie and a movie that'll make you think that it's also topical, Love, Simon is definitely up your alley. Now for TV shows, there are two I want to mention. First up is Killing Eve. This is on BBC America and it is fantastic. It's based on the Villanelle novels by Luke Jennings, and it follows an MI6 agent portrayed by Sandra Oh as she tries to track down a deadly assassin, which, I mean, if they're an assassin, they should be deadly, who is played deliciously by Jodie Comer. I adore Jodie Comer and everything she has ever been in, but she is so fantastic as Villanelle. Have such a huge girl crush on her. This show is just such a twisted cat and mouse game. The story takes so many different twists and turns and goes in so many directions you wouldn't expect it to go in. It's humorous, it's dark, it's gory, there's action, there's emotional beats. There's so much contained in this one season, these 8 episodes. And it's such a compelling narrative. And I cannot wait for season 2 now. And I need it. I need it. I am so invested in this show. So good. And you can tell Jodie Comer's just having the time of her life playing Villanelle, which really sells it. And the next show I've been loving is Patrick Melrose. This is a mini-series that stars Benedict Cumberbatch as a man who has to transport his father's ashes after his father has died, obviously. But he has conflicting feelings about this because, trigger warning, his father was sexually and physically abusive to him as a child, and Patrick is now an alcoholic and drug addict. And this just chronicles his journey. It shows how his childhood informed his present day life, and it is a very tough watch, and it's a very sobering watch, no pun intended. But Benedict Cumberbatch owns his role, and there are humorous moments that add levity and lightness it definitely needs, because if it didn't have it, it'd be so dark and heavy most people couldn't make it through it. I do say that this is a worthwhile watch, especially to see Benedict's performance. It's just a tour de force, and it really packs a punch. It hooks into me from the first episode, and I cannot wait to see how it wraps up. And finally, the video games I love this month, there are several. First up is God of War. I loved pretty much everything about this game. I do need to go and play the post-game content because there's several things I missed during my main playthrough because I was really concerned with getting through the story. But the story itself is just wonderful. It follows Kratos, the main character, and his son Atreus as they are taking his wife's ashes up to the tallest peak in the world. That is not a spoiler. You learn that in the first 30-ish minutes of the game, I would say. And the combat is dramatically different from previous God of War games, but it works. It's so much fun to play with the Leviathan axe, which again is different from the previous God of War games. The visuals are stunning, the voice acting is top notch, and again the story is just so good. It was something I wasn't expecting from a God of War game, and I just loved this game to pieces. This is definitely Game of the Year material. Last thing I want to mention for this favorites video is Detroit Become Human. Now this is not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I loved it. This is the latest game from Quantic Dream and David Cage. And Detroit Become Human follows 3 androids in the year 2038 in Detroit. And you're seeing them as they decide whether they are going to become human or not, if they're going to develop empathy and emotions, if they're going to become deviant, and you control their narratives, and every choice you make has an impact on the story. Your character can die, your character can get a horrible ending, a happy ending. It all depends on what you interact with in the environment, the dialogue choices you make, the actions you choose. If you complete an action, this game is full of QTEs, so if you miss too many QTEs, you could, have your character die, like I said. But it's a really powerful, topical story. It really makes you think. It had me invested. This is one of those rare games I didn't want to put down. I could play for 4 hours and not be tired of it. and I just recommend it if you liked Quantic Dream's previous games like Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. Definitely check out Detroit. It's just so wonderful. And those are all my favorites for the month of May. Let me know what your favorites were in the comment box down below. If you like this video, leave a like and also make sure to share it because that helps my channel grow and makes me super duper happy. Also, if you're not subscribed yet but you'd like to be, hit the subscribe button, and even if you are subscribed, please tap the notification bell so notifications will be turned on because that lets you know when I upload a new video, and it should appear in your sub box if you click the bell. Please click the bell, please. Also, make sure to follow me on social media sites, which are listed in the description box down below. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace and kisses. Bye!